It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre here in the Northeast Conference Front Row Studios. We have an action-packed Week 4 that awaits. All 7 Northeast Conference football members will take to the gridiron on Saturday, September 26th. 2 of those NEC teams will visit CAA members. Another 2 of those NEC teams will take on national top 10 programs. As you can see, there's a lot brewing. That's just the tip of it. Let's dive right in to the No Huddle preview. We start off with Bryant. The Bulldogs at 2-0 are the last remaining NEC unbeaten. And if they want to keep that title, they'll have to take down some pretty tough competition on the road this week. Marty Fine's Bulldogs head down to Conway, South Carolina to take on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, a team that is ranked number 1 in the nation in the latest edition of the FCS Coaches Poll. In the Stats FCS Top 25, the Chanticleers come in at number 2. Whether it's 1 or 2, they'll be a formidable opponent for a Bryant team that's riding high off of a landmark win at Brown. Thanks to its opportunistic defense and a fabulous performance by receiver Chad Ward, the Bulldogs top the Ivy League member Brown Bears, their Ocean State rival, for the first time in history. In any game, especially one of this nature, special teams will play an important role. For Coastal Carolina, they have Devin Brown, the reigning national FCS Special Teamer of the Week. He took a kickoff to the house against Western Illinois, and he's done that 5 times in his career. Bryant is dangerous in the return game as well. No touchdowns in that category yet for the Bulldogs, but either Rico McCray or Jose DePadua are dangerous returning the football. The Bulldogs scored a noteworthy road win last week. Now, it's can they pull off an historic upset on the road? And now we move on to Robert Morris. The Colonials have been to North Dakota State a number of times, including a 2010 FCS playoff appearance. But South Dakota State, that's a new one. Head coach John Banaszak and his Colonials will travel west to take on the SDSU Jackrabbits, the number 6 team in the nation. South Dakota State has made 3 consecutive FCS playoff appearances, but their recent success shouldn't intimidate Robert Morris. After all, it was only 2 weeks ago when the Colonials went into Stambaugh Stadium and took nationally ranked Youngstown State into overtime. They only surrendered 14 points in regulation of that game, and they'll need a similar stalwart defensive effort if they want to hang around with SDSU in this one. Now, South Dakota State lost legendary tailback Zach Zenner. He's with the Detroit Lions now. But their offense hasn't lost a single step. South Dakota State averaging 48 points per game and more than 520 yards of offense per contest. While the Colonials' defensive playmakers will attempt to slow down the Jackrabbits, the offense could do it some favors by kick-starting the run game early. Whether it's Ramses Owens or Cole Blake, Robert Morris's more than capable ball carriers will have to step up and bring their A game Saturday in South Dakota. We've hit Bryant, we've hit Robert Morris. Now it's Central Connecticut State in the spotlight. Pete Rossamondo's Blue Devils will face a CAA member for the 2nd time this season. CCSU played at Stony Brook in Week 2. Now they head to New Hampshire for a Week 4 battle with the Wildcats. It will be New Hampshire's home opener and a battle of 2 1-2 teams. Like Central, UNH also lost to Stony Brook. While Central dropped a 38-9 decision, New Hampshire fell 31-6 last week against the Seawolves. One interesting note on the UNH side, the Wildcats have had 4 different quarterbacks under center during the season's first 3 games. Central, on the other hand, has only had 2. Tavion Paldo started the season, was slowed by injury, and then Jacob Dolgala stepped in and engineered a victory last week, rushing for 3 touchdowns in the 21-14 win over Bowie State. It's a battle for bragging rights in New England, Central Connecticut at New Hampshire. We continue moving down the docket here on the Whole 9 Yards, and next we land on Duquesne. Just like CCSU, the Dukes will be on the road taking on a CAA member this week. Jerry Schmidt's team will go from the Steel City to New York's capital up in Albany. A few years ago, Albany and Duquesne were busy tussling for the NEC title. Albany has since left the Northeast Conference to become a member of the Colonial Athletic Association, but Duquesne and Albany have met since that occurred. Duquesne opened the 2013 season with a 35-24 win over the Great Danes at Rooney Field in Pittsburgh. It was in that victory that a young Dylan Beekle, a freshman at the time, threw for more than 300 yards and 2 scoring strikes. The Duquesne quarterback is now a junior and still has plenty of weapons at his disposal. Last week, Beekle threw a touchdown pass to Wayne Capers, and then, of course, there's the always dangerous Chris King to look out for. Beekle and the Dukes will look to dial it back to that 2013 success when they visit Albany Saturday night. Marching along, we move to Sacred Heart. The 2-time defending NEC champion Pioneers will travel to New Hampshire, where they'll face Ivy League member Dartmouth College in a Saturday evening affair. These 2 programs met 3 consecutive seasons from 2010 through 2012, with the Pioneers taking a 2-1 series advantage over that span. Sacred Heart is 2-1, coming off its first loss, a road setback at Marist, 34-27. The Big Green lifted the lid off 2015 by defeating Georgetown last Saturday. Sacred Heart isn't used to losing, at least not with RJ Noel as its quarterback. The starter is 21-7 since taking over the job in 2013. He'll look to get his Pioneers back on track against a formidable opponent from the Ivy League. Game number 6 takes us to Staten Island, New York, where a pair of teams hungry for a win will clash on Hamline Field, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, live on NEC Front Row, of course. It's Wagner hosting Patriot League member Lafayette. Wagner is 0-2, while Lafayette has started the season on a 3-game slide. Both teams have veteran quarterbacks, Lafayette with Drew Reed, Wagner with Chris Andrews, but neither team has seen its offense hit full stride yet. Lafayette has scored only 2 touchdowns over its first 3 games, while Wagner has found the end zone 4 times in its first 2 contests. Both sides will also look for the defense to step up. The Leopards and the Seahawks are both yielding more than 450 yards per game to their opponents. Whichever team does a better job tightening up its defense will likely secure its first win Saturday night on NEC Front Row. And our last item on the Week 4 docket, it's an exhibition match between St. Francis U and the University of Faith. SFU will entertain Faith on Family Weekend in Loretto. In addition to giving the home crowd something to cheer about, the Red Flash will look to straighten out a few things after dropping back-to-back games on the road following their Week 1 home win over Georgetown. You can watch the Flash against Faith on Front Row. Hey, Mr. Referee, I need a Twitter time out. It's that time again. Every week we feature a top NEC football-related tweet on our show. This week, it goes to Ocho No Cinco, better known as number 8, also known as Bryant receiver Chad Ward. So Chad, you scored 2 touchdowns, the Bulldogs notched a key win over Brown, you got a hug from the Bryant University president, and now you see your tweet featured on the Whole 9 Yards preview show. It doesn't get much better than that, right, kid? That's a week for you. Oh, and how about another 2 touchdowns this week at Coastal? So a Twitter timeout shout-out to Ocho No Cinco, Chad Ward. Hopefully he keeps the touchdowns and the tweets coming. No Huddle preview in the books. Twitter timeout, check. X's and O's up next. In this weekly segment, we feature one prime performer on the offensive side of the ball and then a top player on the defense. First, we start on the offensive side with Sacred Heart. We mentioned signal caller RJ Noel during our No Huddle preview, but we forgot to mention that Noel has one of the top targets in FCS in his arsenal. That's graduate student Tyler Doobie, a touchdown-making machine. Doobie caught 3 TD passes in last week's road game at Marist. He leads the NEC with 5 touchdown catches in 3 games this season. As a junior, Doobie found pay dirt 16 times through the air in only 12 games. So add it all up, 21 receiving touchdowns in his last 16 outings. Tyler Doobie is a big play wide receiver, and that's why he's in this week's X's and O's segment. On the defensive side, it's Robert Morris linebacker Mike Stokovic, the hard-hitting defender who started his collegiate career at North Texas, has been extremely impressive thus far this season, particularly in the near upset of Youngstown State. And that one game was certainly not an aberration. Through a quarter of the season, Stokovic leads the Northeast Conference in tackling, 11.3 stops per game. Robert Morris will need Stokovic and company to be super if they want to take down South Dakota State, the number 6 team in the nation. So 6 games, an exhibition, 2 top 10 opponents, 2 CAA members, the NEC versus the Ivy, X's and O's, Ocho No Cinco's tweet. We did it all. It was a full show, and it sure was a lot of fun. The good news is we do it every week here on NEC Front Row. I'm Ralph Ventre, and I'll see you again next week here on the Whole 9 Yards. Enjoy Week 4 of FCS football.